David can slack about anything.
All right, hold on a second.
Slacker. Well, good evening, everybody.
Hey, girl, hey.
I feel like I'm living some deja vu. It's Halloween coming. Everybody's got big plans for the weekend.
Yeah. Come on, Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. And
putting up my
Tai
tree.
is here.
Hi, Julio. How you doing, boo? Nice to see you. Yeah, girl.
Peter Basuito is here. The actor
Hi,
comedian.
Peter.
I loved your. You've got to make sure that you talk about what you're doing.
My play?
Yeah, your play.
Well, how long do I have?
Let's not forget about Max.
And
You
Max.
have 19
Max.
Speaking of 19.
All right. A famous church pastor suggests hate attack burning gay men is using Bible scriptures for demonic purposes. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. We are live Thursday, October 28, 2021, with breaking news. A famous church pastor suggests hate attack burning gay men is using Bible scriptures for demonic purposes. This week, the LGBTQ+ community was shocked when in Jamaica a man was lured into a meeting from a gay dating app. When the meeting took place at the rendezvous location, it became clear that the three men had baited the gay man in and then beat him, partially cut off his penis, and then set him ablaze. The gay man survived and is recovering in a Jamaican hospital. We do not release his name for his own protection. Jamaica is one of the most homophobic nations in the Caribbean and in the Western Hemisphere, and is also devoutly religious, being led by very conservative churches, including Pentecostal, Church of God, and Seventh-day Adventist. Churches in Jamaica have preached from their pulpits for decades an anti-LGBTQ+ message and even violence messages. Many human rights organizations in the U.S. and around the world, including the United Nations, have called for a change in rhetoric and tone on the island nation. This week, noted pastor Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, the leader of the largest queer church in the world, suggested that Bible scripture, quote, was being used for demonic purposes, end quote. Queer News Tonight has reached out to Watkins for an explanation. He indicated he changed much of his Sunday sermon this week to his worldwide broadcast audience because of his emotional reaction to the attack that took place in Jamaica. Watch this.
And I indict every homophobic preacher because they have contributed to every death and injury of every LGBTQ+ person who's ever suffered. Ever. Well, you just don't believe. They tell me weekly. I love that we have a platform because now I know exactly what people think. They tell me directly. And they'll say, well, you just don't believe the Word of God. Well, I don't believe that the Word of God is hate. That you're correct. And you can justify, you can't actually, but you can try to justify whatever you want to with any Bible verse you want to. But if you are using Bible verses to dehumanize, demonize, and demean the LGBTQ+ children of God, in your hands, Scripture has become demonic. And that's not hyperbole. That is not me being provocative. I have never meant anything more than I mean that. If you have used words of Scripture to kill, if you have used words of Scripture to diminish, if you have used words of Scripture to demean, if you have used words of Scripture to cause people to hate themselves or others, if you have used Scripture to cause pain and suffering, that which is meant to liberate and bring life, you have perverted the Scriptures. Perversion isn't sex. Perversion is hate. Perversion is hate. That is what perversion is.
Wow.
I think every congregation in the United States should have to watch that.
Yeah.
Thoughts about what happened in Jamaica first?
It's a lot. It's a big... my first reaction is really also just to support all the great work that's being done at the local level. There's so many activists in places like Jamaica who fight every day, who do great work to make sure that things like that don't happen. I'm thinking also a lot of great associations locally, like in the United States, the LGBT Asylum Task Force that helps people seeking asylum from these kinds of, from countries like Jamaica. It's horrifying. It's a horrifying story, and there's it makes us feel like we want to do something to help people who are
I'm
finding.
not familiar with Jamaican laws, but is that considered illegal in Jamaica?
Sex between two men is illegal.
Right, but
in Jamaica.
beating a gay man.
Oh, no. That's clearly against the law.
Okay.
We'll watch this story and continue to see what the outcome is in this particular attack. But I think the big issue is a drum is beaten in Jamaica, and people hear the drum. We're clearly familiar with this because of Trump for 4 years, and you hear the drum beat and you attack a Capitol on January 6th. That's what we watched here in Jamaica, and that, I believe, is what Reverend Durrell is commenting on.
Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a major incident to open people's eyes. Like Matthew Shepard. That catapulted a major revolution in the fight for gay rights and hate crimes. Hopefully, this will be one of them.
Yeah.
Max, I'm curious at 19, how does what happened in Jamaica and what you hear here from this pastor, how does it wash over you?
Obviously, it's kind of objective that this is a tragic instance. I think that we know that there's a lot of sects of Christianity and religion in general that are extremely extremely discriminatory and violent against queer folk, and having that in sort of a religious leadership position and being in a position where generally you're someone that's looked up to. The things that you say and the things that you do are going to be reflected in the actions of the people that are listening to you.
When I heard the news of the man being baited in by the gay dating app, we're not even saying which one, and what happened in Jamaica. I've been to Jamaica many, many times. I thought, well, this could happen in America.
Yeah.
Because if you're at Liberty University, and if you're a Graham, for example, they're preaching the exact same thing. There is conservative pastors all over America preaching against the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community. These kind of things in terms of violence are going on, and they're largely being led in the religious community.
What they're leveraging here is fear and shame that is creating this this sense of entitlement or this sense of righteousness that's driving it. It's unfortunate.
As a historian, one of the things I also feel like it's important, like the most homophobic places in the Caribbean today are the former British colonies, and that there's a long, deep-rooted history for why that is. That is, these laws, these homophobic laws are holdovers from colonialism, and that they're still largely felt in places like Jamaica. And it's really hard to undo some of that violence of colonialism more generally, and it's going to be hard.
Well, we do this as live breaking news because Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins' comments, exactly as you said. You wish every church leader in America would see these comments. It is breaking news.
It is.
In terms of what he says. The word should be held responsible. Your independence as a religious institution, he calls out and says, no,
powerful.
You're responsible for your words. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Thursday, October 28, 2021, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you're gonna see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's begin by welcoming anchor Dr. Tai Houser. He is an associate professor of English and Humanities at Broward College. Additionally, he teaches for extended periods of time at international colleges in China, India, Spain, and Bolivia. Good evening, Tai.
Hey, Al, how's it going? Let's welcome my future ex-husband and mother of my love children, Dr. Julio Capo Jr. He is a history professor and the deputy director of the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab at the Florida International University. He specializes in the history of race relations and immigration in the United States, as well as LGBTQ+ studies. He's an author of the book Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940. By the way, everyone that comes to my house picks it up off the coffee table and looks through it. And he curated a new exhibition called Messages from a Pandemic, AIDS Graphic Communication. Good evening, Julio.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people who go in and out that door.
Is it in your bedroom or the coffee table?
She keeps it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Let's welcome anchor Peter Pisuito.
That's me.
An internationally known comedian, writer, producer, director, and actor, selling out shows in 5 countries, including his 2 sold-out shows at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts here in Fort Lauderdale. 2 years ago, he created and wrote a pilot episode to a new sitcom called Vent and Chester, which went on to win awards at film festivals. Unfortunately, the pandemic shut down the project, so Peter decided to rewrite the script into a 2-act play, which will be performed this holiday season here in Wilton. I see here like we're in everywhere, in Wilton Manors. He is also a huge advocate on dog rescue and uses his new YouTube video podcast called Ask a Naked Guy Crocheting to raise money in rescuing dogs from slaughterhouses. Goodness, in China. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Need a minute?
This is a lot of stuff. I feel very emotional. I feel...
I usually make people cry. I'm supposed to make them laugh, but apparently I make them cry. But yes, please come see my new play. It's getting great reviews. We open on November 27th, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I have a huge Hollywood-style premiere opening that's going to be, wear your Hollywood attire.
Your huge opening. Tell us more.
Yes, my huge opening. It's a big one. Wear your cocktail dresses.
Yes.
I love how you pointed at us.
Wow.
That's fair.
It's fair. Okay.
It's going to be a great show. It's going to.
How many shows are you doing?
There's 8 performances. We open the 27th of November and we close.
That's over 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We can't
and
wait.
Where are you going to be?
At the Center for Spiritual Living.
Right on Oakland Park?
Oakland Park.
Yeah, Oakland and
so
Dixie.
Please come see the show.
Exactly.
Go to ventandchester.com. Ventandchester.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Peter's an old-fashioned kind of marketer because, us being digital television, we likely could have incorporated that image in the show. Next time.
No,
yeah,
I'm
hold up another card.
I'm on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, not just tricking, but I'm passing out
Also
flyers,
tricking.
everything. So let's welcome Maxx Fenning from Prism. At just the age of 17, Maxx founded this amazing nonprofit organization that works to expand access to LGBTQ+ inclusive education and sexual health resources for LGBTQ+ youth in South Florida. Now, at the ripe old age of 19, I have underwear older than you, Maxx is a senior at the University of Florida and serves as Prism's president. When I was 19, my biggest accomplishment was memorizing the choreography to Madonna's Like a Virgin tour.
Child, you
that
are
was
so gay.
That was it.
He
So
probably
welcome.
doesn't even know who Madonna is.
She's that old lady that
Yeah,
in the
that's
80s.
right, in her 60s.
Welcome, Maxx. Thank
one
you
with
for
the
being on the show. Isn't he cute?
Thank you. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, October 28th.
I've been dying to say this. Thank you, Maxx, for that marvelous introduction. Now, we'll queer up education.
He also doesn't know what that reference is.
He's like, that was
Milo Yiannopoulos to give Pray the Gay Away speech at, Penn State University.
Ty, didn't you go to Penn State?
Yeah.
Okay.
Conservative troll Milo Yiannopoulos is scheduled to speak at Pennsylvania State University at a November 3rd event called Pray the Gay Away. Milo, who once said that sex between 13-year-olds and older men can be life-affirming, Max, came out as ex-gay in March. In an open letter to students, university officials wrote that they oppose his presence but cannot cancel the event due to First Amendment free speech rights. The letter said that student organizations are allowed to invite guest speakers, but stated the faculty's and administration's disapproval, saying, quote, "But let us be clear, at his core, Yiannopoulos is a social provocateur, a personality whose central public purpose is to deliberately create controversy, hurt, and disruption. That is something we all should recognize," end quote.
He's been stirring the LGBTQ community for years and years and years.
I've got lots of questions surrounding this because, okay, so when does free speech and hate speech, where do they overlap? And I know that in the United States we spend a lot of time fighting for all speech to be free speech. Okay, so let's give us that as our Second Amendment right. However, is this organization given funds from the university to exist that are out of tuition fees? If that is the case, then the university does have a right to kind of curtail hate speech and a responsibility. If it's not, then I'm going to say that their legal counsel is probably right.
I challenge you on that in complete opposite. If Liberty University was a public school, it's private, so they can do a lot of things. Brigham Young is private, so the Mormons can do a lot of things. But if Liberty was public, if they said, you know, we absolutely are not going to allow an LGBT representation or trans representation on campus, and we're not going to allow any of our student organizations to bring in national speakers to support the trans community, would we feel the exact same way in terms of the impingement of those free speech rights? Who gets to decide is really the question.
And there's always a gray area. You know, it's never black and white. There's always that gray area, you know, in making those decisions. So
it's, I mean, it's so complicated. I mean,
Florida
it receives...
International, would Florida International impinge, would Milo be allowed to speak at Florida International?
I don't know. I imagine it would receive a lot of support on both sides. Like that is, but I think that I think things like this are so important to challenge, so important that this is exactly, you're giving a platform to hate speech and to making people feel unsafe, unwanted in that space. I would also just say then, why not host a similar, event, giving at the exact same time and see how many people can show up to that.
Well, so the students of Penn State are organizing something at the exact same time to kind of counter it. And the president of the student government, as well as a whole bunch of other people, have come out vehemently opposed to it.
You know, many people have advocated for us to bring Milo on the show, and even here to Fort Lauderdale. And
I think that would be interesting, personally, because you know, as much as we disagree with that, everybody has their own opinion, and they are free to think however they want to think about a certain group of people. Now, whether they bring violence to that, that's a whole different story.
I'm sick that day. I'm not coming.
But his point of the whole point in Pray the Gay Away is to discuss conversion therapy, and that has been disproven and unaccepted by every medical and psychological association out there.
Considered abuse.
It's
right.
It's
So
violence.
why would you give a platform to violence?
Well, but it seems to me, which is why I was asking, there's a difference in the justification of why and the question of can you. Those are two different questions, I think. Can Penn State allow Milo to speak? My conclusion is they absolutely can, and they absolutely have the right to do it. Should they, because of who he is and what he represents, and especially the maniacal kind of position he does? Okay, well, the argument is clearly no. You shouldn't. But how do you make the decision of who can speak and who cannot speak? And I'm afraid of that slippery slope that some radical Republican will say, okay, now we're impinging your speech rights. That's my concern, my fear.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the whole point of that student organization is it's their whole thing is really proving a point. It's kind of like hinged. It kind of hinges on that free speech, and so it is less of like a what is the point of bringing this particular person, and it's more so like this is the most controversial person that we can do to prove a point about free speech, and that really seems to be like a kind of like shoving in your face a First Amendment right, and like we're going to stoke this violent speech and just kind of test the waters and see.
You know, it's interesting to me because when we were doing the political debate, Tai participated in the big political debate that we did in October 2020 and had national representatives, #walkaway, the log cabin Republicans, etc. We talked extensively about having Milo in that program and ultimately decided that we did not want to do that. But Brandon Strzok, for example, we gave the platform to. I interviewed him on Queer News Tonight. He was a principal debater in that debate. And I'm very proud of that participation, of allowing and giving him that platform. He's crazy as fuck, but I'm glad he got to say it in front of us and we got to challenge it over and over and over. And ultimately, did we make the right decision? He's at the Stop the Seal rally on January 5th. He's at the Capitol on January 6th. You capture him being tear gassed and breaking into the Capitol, and just in the last 2 weeks, he's pled guilty to the charges of what he did at the Capitol. But I'm still glad that we gave him that platform to show this is what you are. If we didn't allow that, we would never be able to explore it.
This is why we fight so much for our freedom of speech, because it could go to the other side as well, right? We don't want someone saying that what we're saying is
That's right. Well,
not acceptable, except for me.
It's always good to expose crazy.
Yeah.
Al.
All right, let's queer up politics. Senator Josh Hawley and wife launch podcast about struggles of being straight, white, and cis. Oh, goodness.
Oh, the difficulties of child.
This is going to be a lot.
Where's that small vial?
I'm preparing y'all. Senator Josh Hawley is a busy man. In addition to allegedly plotting insurrections, laying the groundwork for a potential 2024 presidential run, railing against big tech, and pushing an anti-LGBTQ agenda in the U.S. Senate, he somehow found the time to launch a new podcast with his wife, Erin. In a tweet, Hawley announced, quote, "Big news from the Hawley family. Erin and I have a new podcast and it launches today. It's called This Is Living. It's about our life together, our family and faith, and the things that matter most," end quote. A super basic, straight, white, cisgender couple talking about family and faith. Or you could actually watch shows that are actually entertaining on the Happening Out television network. Just saying.
I think the title of that show is very fitting. It would find a welcome home in like a Hobby Lobby.
Everything has its audience.
Yeah, no, like put F in cursive font over some beachy, weathered wood. I feel like it makes perfect sense.
Well, I know it's really not good to body shame these days because people are so overly sensitive, but I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
Have you seen the podcast?
No.
No.
I saw a couple clips on YouTube, and they basically sit on this dilapidated leather couch, and she's kind of sitting side saddle with her feet up, and she's got no socks or shoes on, and she's got the nastiest feet you will ever see in your life, and she has toenail polish on, like it's going to make it any better,
She's showing us that they're just like us layman people.
Let me tell you, those toes, that is not living.
Sit down, people. Like, I don't know.
Or at least sit down and hide your feet.
At Queer News Tonight, we always like to have balance. So can I speak up for the cisgender,
Absolutely.
white, privileged class? And no, I can't. I can't even do it. I'm sorry, I can't. Peter, let's move us on.
Oh, okay. Well, hold on a second. All right. Queer up the world. U.S. issues its first passport with an X-gender marker. The United States has issued its first passport with an X-gender designation, a milestone in the recognition of rights of people who don't identify as male or female, and expects to be able to offer the option more broadly next year, the State Department said Wednesday. The advocacy organization GLAAD said later Wednesday the passport was issued to Dana Zim, an intersex Colorado resident who has been in the legal battle with the department since 2015. The U.S. Special Diplomatic Envoy for LGBTQ rights, Jessica Stern, called the moves historic and celebratory, saying they bring the government documents in line with the lived reality that there is a wider spectrum of human sex characteristics than is reflected in the previous two designations. Zim was born with ambiguous physical sexual characteristics, but was raised as a boy and underwent several surgeries that failed to make Zim appear fully male, according to court filings. Zim served in the Navy as male, but later came to identify as intersex while working and studying at Colorado State University. The department's denial of Zim's passport prevented Zim from being able to travel to a meeting of Organization Intersex International in Mexico. Wow, that's a mouthful.
That's what she
So
said.
Intersex Awareness Day was Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, Tuesday. Prison post about it. Check it out on Instagram. But I think that this sort of representation for intersex people is so important because we see so commonly is this sort of demonizing of the way that people are like physically born and these physical characteristics, and then in a lot of these instances, it forces children to have these really invasive, unnecessary medical procedures to align with sort of what we think of as male or female, for no reason other than conformity.
It's really well said. I think intersex stories are so often invisibilized, they're erased, and to kind of censor, I mean, that was really well. Thank you for that, yeah.
I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I will do it. I didn't actually know that the chromosomal issue was a real issue. I get if issue is the right word or not, until I did my research for my dissertation. I read Jeffrey Eugenides' Middlesex, and it's a real thing. There's an extra chromosome there, and to try and force people into a binary is it's just not a healthy way to perceive the world.
I heard just today Zim's comments on receiving the passport designation, first passport issued in the United States with the X in Colorado, and the emotional response that Dana Zim had in opening and looking at the passport and seeing gender male, gender female, gender X, and that being the checkoff. I think that's wonderful in the story. I also think interesting in the discussion about how long it took the State Department to view this as an issue. And I want to remind everybody what happened between leading up to 2016 to 2020. A lot of people are saying, well, why didn't we come to this a long time ago? Well, it's because we had Donald Trump in the White House, and that's why the State Department didn't do it. Many, many other countries around the world have already done this, and many very conservative countries have already done this. We have just come to the party very late. But fortunately for Dana Zim, we finally came to the party.
Next, let's queer up trans rights. Hashtag cis with the T as thousands speak out and denounce transphobia. This weekend showed that sometimes the internet can be a good place too, shocker. After the BBC ran a story about porn star Lily Kade backing out of a scene because she found out a woman she was supposed to film with was trans, the I Stand With Lesbians hashtag started to trend among TERFs, accusing trans women who are lesbian as being predatory. The internet reacted in all the best ways, and cisgender women, both gay and straight, started using the hashtag cis with the T. It was the 4th most popular hashtag in the UK this week, and has begun picking up support across the globe.
Thoughts?
I mean, I love this idea of challenging TERFs and challenging, and that is to kind of see this story moving in solidarity. And we saw, as you noted, both cis and queer women and trans women, people came in support, and that was powerful. It's really necessary.
What do you think about the observation that as it relates to trans, that the L and the G and the B and the Q don't stand up for the trans community? Because that's really one of the big issues here in this story, that we don't stand up for the trans community is in the way that we should.
And I read the BBC article, as well, and I spent quite some time perusing the hashtags on Twitter, this really also sparks a conversation that has become increasingly present when discussing trans rights is genital preferences, and sort of what that means in terms of how we think about sexual attraction as a whole, and the way that this article just so like vehemently demonized trans people and really made them out to be predators when it's come out also, I don't know the legitimacy of this, but Lily Kade has now is facing accusations that she was actually a sexual predator, and that she repeatedly pushed people, and pressure people into sexual relationships that they were not comfortable with. So it's interesting that she is claiming to be the victim of predation from trans women.
Oh my goodness.
So how do you actually, like, because you just said we need to support the trans community more. How?
Well,
besides creating hashtags.
We'll have to do an entire special on your question. One thing, I'm going to answer it this way. November 18th, we're going to do a live broadcast special here at 6 o'clock, from 6 to 8 o'clock. Ariana's Center, we're going to help support their fundraiser. Here, an open bar and food and a program here. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to do a live broadcast in Sunshine Cathedral called Resilience, Stories of the Trans Community. And all of that's going to explore support for the trans community in preparation for TDOR, the International Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is going to be 2 days later, November 20th. That's my first comment, because we're going to answer that in a very extensive way. My second answer is, if you haven't watched this week, I interviewed Tori Cooper. Tori is the transgender top person at the HRC and made national news and international news as being the first trans person of color to be appointed at the White House, and serves on the HIV and other committee at the White House. I interviewed her this week. We broadcast it on Thursday, and I asked this question specifically: what can we do? And she has very specific answers, and I encourage you to watch that interview. And I asked her, do you feel like the L and the G and the B and the Q stand up for the trans community, expecting a political mamby-pamby nice answer? And her answer was never. It was a flat one-word answer.
Wow.
Never.
We need to do better.
We must do better. That's what this hashtag is really all about.
All right. So that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ plus news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies.
You like quickies, Peter?
I just had one before the show. I'm having one now. Don't stop.
Okay.
It's impossible for me to have a quickie. Queer News Tonight has reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6th, 2020. Tonight, we report that as of today, more than 3,262,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have contracted COVID-19.
Queer News Tonight remembers the more than 53,000 LGBTQ plus Americans that have died from coronavirus.
But the news is improving, because as of today, more than 416 million vaccination doses have been administered in the United States.
That is our pandemic news for tonight. Next, we report on our partnership with the Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at the Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ plus religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 people watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
I'm Auntie Mame, South Florida's black bearded drag mama, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, now we're going to finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus Flash News. In LGBTQ plus Flash News, Grindr is throwing a massive Halloween party in these 10 cities. And Ty's going to tell us all about it. Grindr has lots of treats for tricks this Halloween. That's why Ty's going to tell us about it. And is ghosting, get it? Hosting. A series of spooky, really? Was it that bad?
We need writers.
Yeah, we need writers. We do. What are you doing for the rest of your life?
I'm writing
Of
for the
spooky,
show.
sexy parties across the country. The 10 parties take place on Saturday evening, and they are all free. If you show your Grindr app at the door, you also get free drink tickets and swag. Sadly, Grindr apparently didn't have the budget for the huge gay population that is here in South Florida, but here are the 10 locations around the country where you can join in on the fun. I love this. Chicago at Sidetrack, Cleveland at Leather Stallion, Dallas at Roundup Saloon, Washington, D.C. at Trade, Las Vegas at Charlie's, Los Angeles at Revolver, New Orleans at Oz, I love Oz, New York at Metropolitan, Seattle at Union, and San Francisco at the Eagle. If you're at one of these parties, you're sure to find fun 0 feet away. I think that this is an awesome event, and I told production, wait, tomorrow when we broadcast this story, we're reaching out to Grindr and saying, what are you doing Saturday, Halloween 2022?
Yeah.
You're coming to Fort Lauderdale is what you're going to do.
Yeah, what a missed opportunity. Also, I want to know what's in those swag bags. Like what, poppers and lube? Like that sounds amazing. Like that sounds, I don't know.
Poppers and lube sounds amazing.
No, I don't, never heard of her. I don't.
Would it be wrong for me to just post my address?
Yes.
Oh.
And besides, Julio's book is doing enough trade traffic.
I do what I can.
Philanthropy. You know, I bummer that it's not here, but I did delete Grindr like 3 weeks ago, so whatever.
Really?
So that's why you're ghosting me.
You ran out in the nick of time.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, like, because I'm not really much of a Grindr user, but I find it kind of weird that they wouldn't throw a party in one of the biggest gay populated areas.
We're going to ask tomorrow. I'm not kidding.
You know how much
have
money they
to.
could have made?
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus Flash News. It's happening. The first pick of the new Queer as Folk cast together in New Orleans. If you're excited for the spin-off of the wildly popular US spin-off and remake of the British show Queer as Folk, you're not the only one. Johnny Sibili, the Pose hottie, is playing in the show and recently shared a picture on his Instagram of himself and co-stars whose names I would care about if I cared about this spin-off.
Wow.
You're not going to say
You're
that.
not going to say their names?
God.
That's my just one sentence.
Okay.
Goodness.
Doing them dirty.
Wait, I'm going to do them because they'll tag the show when we do.
Right.
Jesse James Keitel, Finn Argus, Ryan O'Connell, Devin Way, and Candace Grace.
They're not tagging anything after what he said.
We're going to make up for Dr. Tai Houser. Watch. Go.
I can't believe the hate that I'm going to get after this now.
They're coming for you. Oh my gosh. I've actually never seen Queer as Folk.
What? Oh my God. You're done.
That's,
Well, I'm going to have to hop on that bandwagon because I've never seen it either.
I
will say, though,
solidarity.
I was the original cast. Who's the guy? He's got a radio show in Chicago. What's his name? One of the cats. See, you guys.
The guy who
know.
plays Brian or
No,
Justin?
No. Brian lives in L.A.
He's straight in real life, and he's got a radio show in Chicago.
Oh, he's the best friend. I don't remember his name. The comic book nerd.
I don't know. I never watched the show.
House
anyway,
Sparks. House Sparks.
I was performing in Chicago, a stand-up comedy show, and he interviewed me on his show.
Oh.
Yeah, he was really nice.
He's a comedian.
Did you tell him you had never watched Queer as Folk?
Well, no. Why would I say that? I told him I was a huge fan.
Here's how I'm going to make it up. I have watched every episode of Queer as Folk at least 5 times.
Wow.
5 people at this table. See, we've all watched Queer as Folk. And by the way, it's Thursday night. And Brian Kenny reminds us, go to the bar on Thursday night because it's 9-inch night.
Oh,
Just saying.
I don't remember that, but
I'll be there.
I just want to, like, this was when that show first came out. Oh, that he remembered. That he knew.
I never pass up a 9-inch. All right, go ahead.
I feel like when that show came out, there was very little to watch. Like, it was one of the few sources of LGBTQ content that we had, and I'm really excited to see this. I enjoyed the first version.
Well, I will also say that I used to live in Buffalo for 13 years, so Toronto was just a short 90-minute drive.
Yeah.
And that's where they filmed.
Yeah, we used to go to that bar all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It was
All
called
right.
Fly in real life. Fly.
That's right.
Fly.
That's right. I dismiss all of you.
All of you. I'm with you a little bit. Not always, and that never happens.
Well, send your hate mail to taihouser@gmail.com.
Okay. LGBTQ flash news.
You forgot the plus.
Plus, LGBTQ plus flash news.
Have you done this show before?
I'm new here. I'm not. Doritos ad for Dia de los Muertos gives us life. Literally. Watch this.
Hermano, cómo te extraño. ¡Oh! ¡Tío Alberto!
¡Qué sorpresa! ¿Qué hubo, familia? ¿Cómo están?
Alberto.
¿Quién es él? Es Mario, mi pareja.
¡Qué milagro! Creí que este iba a estar solo para siempre. Alberto. Ay, qué lindos.
My goodness, that was a lot. That was beautiful. Dia de los Muertos, the holiday where Mexican and Latin American communities honor their deceased loved ones, is coming up. And Doritos has released, as we just saw, a new ad celebrating LGBTQ plus pride. On the Day of the Dead, families create ofrendas, an altar to remember their late loved ones that create a bridge between the afterlife and the living world so that the family can be reunited once again. In Doritos Mexico's new Spanish commercial, a family goes to visit their Uncle Alberto. All of a sudden, his spirit appears alongside one of a mystery man. When the family asks who the man is, Alberto answers, "He's Mario, my partner." At first, some of the family seems shocked, but then Alberto's sister claps and cheerfully announces, "What a miracle! I thought he would be alone forever." The commercial ends with the message, "Nunca es tarde para ser quien eres," and "Orgullo todo el año." These messages translate to "It's never too late to be your true self," and "Pride all year." Oh my goodness, this is powerful. This is like
great,
emotional.
It's great.
This fights so many, I think a lot of, there's always kind of this myth of machismo that they somehow is kind of individualized in Latino communities and Latin American communities, even though homophobia exists in all cultures. And this is such a powerful challenge to that. And this is about community, about family. And I love this. I love every bit of this.
My literature students had just started a chapter on magical realism, and I can't wait to work this in.
Oh, good. That's great. Doritos will love to hear that.
Yeah.
Seriously, they will.
Yeah.
They will.
They can sponsor my class as well.
I would say I think intersectionality is one of the most important things when you're talking about these sorts of stories, and so I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have a love affair with Doritos. I mean, I swear, I'm not kidding. This
Cool
is true.
Ranch.
Ask my husband. Like, I will, like, if I wake up at 3 in the morning and I can't sleep, I will literally drive to the corner store and get a bag of Doritos.
You now have a greater reason to eat
Well,
them.
there you go. And, you know, Spanish Doritos are even better.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yes.
But that was, I couldn't understand it. The only phrase I know in Spanish is "el grande puta." That's all I know.
It's an important
I
one.
swear, that's all I know.
Some marketing guy at Doritos right now is going, You know what's really great about this? First off, they make a nod to the Disney movie that was done in this style. And the other thing, I just want to piggyback your observation about machismo in Latin culture. It's being a white guy. I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm a white guy.
Clearly.
Clearly. I hear it over and over and over again about LGBT. This absolutely hits on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Family, in a cemetery. I don't know if you noticed, they were in a church cemetery.
Yeah. Religion.
Religion is in it. The relationships, they hit it on all parts. Happy Halloween to everyone, including Day of the Dead.
Right on. All right. LGBTQ plus flash news. New DC Robin comic covers are hot and sweaty.
I knew Peter was going to get this.
I love this story. Because you can't get too much of a good thing, DC Comics is releasing a new limited series called Robins that will feature all of the characters who have played Batman's sidekick. As part of the series, they are also releasing special fitness-themed variant covers of the characters. The covers will feature Tim Drake as Robin training in martial arts, Stephanie Brown as Robin lifting weights, Dick Grayson as Robin. We think he's supposed to be in some kind of a boxing ring or something, but we just see sweat and a bulge. And finally, Jason Todd as Robin looking freshly showered in the locker room. We have no clue what the comics will actually be about, and quite frankly, we don't really give a shit. I don't really want to be Batman's sidekick. I would rather be Jason Momoa's sidekick.
Oh, you're an Aqua kind of girl. Okay.
I just want to beat the hell out of Lisa Bonet. I just eliminate her, please.
By the way, I don't know if you're hearing the news on the Superman Kal-El #5. They have postponed the launch of the comic of Superman's son being gay for an entire week because it completely sold out. It's one of their biggest sellers ever in history.
That's
because Superman is gay. Isn't that awesome? And
I always knew it.
And Robin, in this, my favorite Robin story was Burt Ward. You have no idea who I'm talking about. He was Robin in the 1960s in the Batman series. And Burt Ward could not be seen in his, whatever that was called, that red thing he wore. You could not see any genitals because apparently he was so large, they padded him so nothing could be seen. So I always think of Burt Ward and go, yay, go Robin.
I was always a Chris O'Donnell fan of Robin. This was going to be my Halloween It still is. I'm not changing it. This is my Halloween costume.
You're going to be Robin?
I am.
Awesome.
Isn't that strange how we went from the 60s where their costumes looked like, pajamas to what it is now? I mean, everything was so simple back then.
Simple.
Right.
Speaking
of simple.
All that entire story, I mean, there was lots of, I understood the words individually, but when you put them all together into sentences, it made no sense to me.
Max, we're up to you.
I'm going to start a new hobby of comic book collecting.
Right. All right.
All right, LGBTQ plus flash news. Gay Christmas, America's top 10 gayborhood Halloween parties for 2021, number 5 to number 1. Previously, Queer News Tonight reported on the first half of our top 10 LGBTQ plus Halloween block parties. Tonight, we bring you the rest of the list. Number 5, Chicago's Haunted Halsted. This celebration in the former Boys Town neighborhood always makes top 10 lists. Number 4, San Diego's Hillcrest Haunted Halloween Dance Party. With its huge costume contests and great drag shows, this party's theme of Nightmare on Normal Street is sure to be fun. Number 3, San Francisco. The Madhouse San Francisco Party is one of the biggest queer Halloween parties in California and is known for its celebrity sightings. Number 2, Provincetown. It may be nearing the end of the season for this gay hotspot, but the cooler weather just means it's perfect for Spooky Bear Weekend. And number 1, Wynwood. Of course, we had to end our list in the gayest place on planet Earth. Halloween is the 2-day-long block party in the Wynwood Marketplace area and draws some of the hottest people in South Florida, such as yours truly.
Oh? Those are...
Oh, there's another part to this. I was gonna end like that, and it was gonna be a thing.
Drop the mic.
Anyways,
You were going to end the story with
fine.
you being hot?
Yeah.
Is that really?
always gotta rub your.
Oh,
anyway.
you are 19.
This is correct. Those are the final 5 of our top 10 best neighborhood Halloween parties. What ones will you be attending? Let us know in the comments. That was my sentence that I'm one of the hot.
I'm sorry. Where's Wynwood or what is it? Wynwood?
Miami.
It's in Miami, near downtown.
This.
Yeah, it's the arts district. One of that kind of.
First off, the fact that Wynwood is #1 and Wicked Manors in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale is #6, send all of your complaints to David Hopkins at Happening.
That's it.
Right? And by the way, I love the idea. I have not been to Wynwood, but we always joke, what is the gayest place on planet Earth? Is it Fort Lauderdale in Broward County, or is it
It's my condo.
now Wynwood?
I'm sorry, neither of you have been to Wynwood?
I've been to Wynwood.
Oh,
many times.
But I've not been to the Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, me either.
All right.
And if I said right now I was going to the Wynwood Halloween event, I have 20 people that would kill me before midnight. Kill me.
And everyone would cancel their plans.
Yeah.
I love me some P-Town, but it is too cold to be in your harness and like or whatever
in
you
a
try.
harness?
Allegedly, right? Like it would be a little. I mean, every costume is essentially a harness and like a. No, that's just us. That's just us.
Tell me, Julio,
A harness.
A harness, Julio?
You could be. It's essentially just right. Like groundbreaking.
Wait, let me let you in on a little secret. Julio wrote Queer Miami 40 in a harness. He wrote the book that way.
And one of them,
Right.
I can crochet you a harness.
Could you?
Yeah.
Naked? Isn't that your thing?
Sure, absolutely.
Got
Isn't that-
this show? We just must.
Whoever sells tickets.
Julio, you help end the show.
It's very sweet.
Can you see?
This is that's today's news for the LGBTQ+. I didn't know it was my turn. I'm sorry. Community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring my bell, Julio, for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Did it get uncomfortable for anyone else?
No, not at all. I'm right at home. Post this broadcast in the many groups you are a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our LGBTQ stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these stories in motion and sound, and that is the passion of Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Robin, Dr. Julio Capo, Dr. Tai Houser, Peter Basuito, yes, and go to his...
Totally green screened like that.
and Maxx Fenning. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we end our show, we have one final story.
And we will queer up South Florida. Smart Ride targets a 100% $1 million donation for HIV charities, November 20th. It's almost time for the 18th annual Smart Ride. This massive HIV/AIDS charity fundraiser is a 2-day bike ride from Miami to Key West. We recently sat down with Glenn Weisenheimer, the founder of Smart. I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm so sorry, Glenn. Glenn Weisenheimer, the founder of the Smart Ride, to talk about it. Watch this.
Well, next up, let's welcome Glenn Weisenheimer, the founder of the Smart Ride, happening on November 19th and 20th, and traveling from Miami to Key West. The Smart Ride, counting now number 18, is the country's second largest AIDS bicycle ride and the only one of its size to give back 100% of funds raised to AIDS services organizations. So far this year, the Smart Ride participants have already raised almost $760,000. You didn't hear that number wrong. And are shooting for $1 million again. Ben Weinsheimer is also the owner of Bona Italian Restaurant here in Wilton Manors. Love the place, where their Give Back Mondays, dine-in or takeout diners and dinners have a portion of all sales go to different charities throughout the South Florida community. The event is going to be honored, in fact, at the Equality Florida Gala next month for its support of our LGBTQ community. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Al. Thank you for having me.
We are really happy you're here, and we always love talking about the Smart Ride. First off, let's get it right off the table. Why in the world, besides the benefit, would somebody get on a bicycle for 165 miles?
You'd have to ask every single one of those riders that does it.
Approximately 400, I've heard?
Yeah, we usually end up around 450. We start out with like 600. 30% of all participants don't show. It's a national average. Oh. Doesn't matter if it's Atlanta with 100 riders or California with 3,000 riders. 30% don't show, even on an anniversary year.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
But they continue to support the event, but they just end up not riding.
Correct. Yeah, there's family emergencies, there's, business commitments, job obligations, things like that.
Now, the obvious joke of the Smart Ride number 18 is you've been around the creation of this, being the driving force, being the spine and the brain. Let's make a joke of age.
Okay, let's talk about yours. Because if I'm not mistaken, we were born in the same year.
Oh, well, yeah, you're probably mistaken. I'm going to believe that. 18 years. I read that you've raised over $12.5 million.
Yeah.
My gosh, that is absolutely stunning.
And it's a number that's hard to process. It really is.
It really is. We're talking about LGBT, first off, and in South Florida. $12.5 million has been raised for this project.
And it's benefited so many organizations throughout the state of Florida. Our legacy agency is AIDS Help in Key West. We've got Pride Lines in Miami, we've got Broward House in Fort Lauderdale, we've got Compass in Palm Beach, we've got Miracle of Love in Orlando, and it looks like we're going to be working with Epic and probably Equality Florida next year as additional agencies.
You know what's amazing about it, too? To have a number, to even be able to say that you have an event that's been around for 18 years, first off, is an accomplishment in the LGBTQ community. Second, to say the impact of an event that has been around for this longevity, supporting HIV services, which are so critically important in our community. And then third, you apply a number of $12.5 million. It's almost unimaginable when you combine those three issues.
And then you add in the fact that we guarantee that 100% of that money is raised as returned, that we don't use any of it to produce the event. And the event cost us a couple $100,000 to produce.
Yeah, and help everybody understand that, because we every time we talk about Smart Ride, we talk about 100% of the money is going to HIV services. Explain to the listener how you pay those expenses of running.
Sure. So each participant pays $135 to participate, and that includes their housing and all their food. That helps offset the cost of the event. On top of that, we have sponsors like Can Community Health, that is our title sponsor, that gives us a significant amount of money, and they've only been doing that for the last 4 years. So up to that point, we were covering it through most of our other sponsors, which we still have, and I don't want to leave anybody out, because I always do if I start mentioning them, but like Gilead and Merck and, Hunter's Bar, there's so many people in our community that have gone over and beyond to support us either in kind or with hard dollars that offsets the cost of producing the event.
Yeah.
And we made that promise, and so, you're only as good as your word.
Right. Right. We'll in our promotion of Smart Ride in these last weeks, we'll make sure that we mention your sponsors frequently, because we are always grateful to the sponsors of the LGBTQ community that help propel us. Now, California's bigger, I understand, and they do a longer ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. They won't be doing it this year?
That's correct. They would have been in June, and they postponed it because of COVID. It was still not far enough out of the vaccines, and in hindsight, it was a smart move on their part, because when the Delta variant hit, it would have been just around the time of full-on production. So, for us, we're 2.5 days basically. For them, there's 7 days and nights. They've got 3,000 people. They could never do what we do, because I can get Olive Garden to feed 700 people on our opening night. You can't get Olive Garden or any other organization to feed you for 7 days with 3,000 people every night. I never want to be that large. I mean, that was never my goal. You know, it was just to sort of help our local agencies make a difference.
Well, let's cheer for South Florida's Smart Ride in a different way. To all of my friends, I have many in West Hollywood that participate in the fundraising event out in California. That's not happening, so we technically can say you're the biggest
we could
ride in the country.
I don't want to take that from them because they earned it, and they didn't go away during this period. They just found different ways to raise the money to keep their services going. But
and all the services in the community are good, but after all, this is the gayest place on planet Earth, and I have friends in West Hollywood that I want to poke in the eye.
And you can, you know what, they may even be on our ride. We've got a lot of, our largest group of riders is Broward County. Our second largest group of riders is out of state.
Wow.
2 years ago, we had 39 states represented on the ride. And that went everywhere from California to New York, Texas, you know, and overseas. We've had riders as far as.
And tell us a little bit about the experience itself. You ride 2 days, you go to Hawks Key, beautiful place, and you're overnighting them at Hawks Key as the halfway point, or a little more than halfway to Key West. Tell us what the experience is like of the 2 days.
So the first day they ride 100 miles. So you look at it as 5 20-mile rides. You know, if you look at it as 100 miles, like someone like me, that's overwhelming. I can easily say, you know, I can't do that. When I turned 50, I decided I would do it. I don't do athletic things. I don't catch a ball. I know you do, but they may not out there. So if they don't know that, I don't catch a ball.
You have an
I don't do
Italian
something like
restaurant
that.
for a reason.
Exactly. It's the reason I do other things, and I'm better at administration and marketing than I am at athletic sports.
Right.
Bowling, maybe.
Yeah, and that's a maybe.
And that's a maybe. And I know this goes off topic, but it's funny. And you could always cut it if you need to. So I took tennis in college because I thought, look how cute those skirts are, right? Yeah. It'll be great. I took it twice. The professor told me to drop it the second time because he said he never met anyone who gets progressively worse the more they practice, and I had to drop it.
You know, that story just seems so believable to me.
It is believable. I wouldn't lie. But back to the experience. I mean, we create a family that is unlike anything else our participants do. They train together. A lot of riders will say, you know, I loved the weekend, it was so amazing. And I have to push back and say, you loved the experience that started 3 or 4 months beforehand. Right. It's getting up at 6 in the morning and riding with your peers and experiencing flat tires and having stories when you go to breakfast. And then it builds and culminates up to that Friday morning when you ride out of the University of Miami and you start this journey. And at each pit stop, there's someone there to cheer you on and to give you water and Gatorade and give you a hug, and there's a full medical team, and so you're coddled the entire way down, and it's an amazing experience. You have so much time in your head during that you can process why you're doing this, you know, and process life, and just, you know, how lucky it is that you're capable of doing this, because there's a lot of riders that have been on this. You know, when this originally started, we have 18 years with me, or for Smart Ride, but prior to that, there was 6 or 7 years of other reincarnations of the event, and they weren't successful, but it's been going on, you know, for almost 2.5 decades.
Part of the experience that you're talking about also leads up, especially in the last, in the time period where we're approaching just a little under a month, the fundraising events. Some of the kinds of fundraising events that happen. What is among your favorites that you've ever seen?
Some of the turnabouts that the bars do is incredible.
Have you gotten into drag?
At the Lips event.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I did. And I got very comfortable. Yeah. And some people got nervous.
No, that wasn't pretty.
That was not pretty. I was a very ugly Nancy Reagan. That's all I have to say. And her final days, not even like when she was young and stuff. It was just bad. Really bad.
When the Ouija board was
when the Ouija board was
contact her.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but yeah, but I had a lot of fun, you know, because anytime you can get all these people together, you know, they come from so many different backgrounds and so much economic diversity, that when they come on the ride, I often say it's sort of like going to the hospital. You could have a Porsche outside, you could, you know, have expensive clothes and everything else, but when you go in the hospital, you're stripped of your identity. You know, other than maybe your nail polish, which I know you don't wear a lot of, but other than your nail polish, like, you really are in the hospital, and no one can tell whether you're a billionaire or whether you're someone off the street. Yeah. And the ride is kind of like that in the sense that you're meeting all these people from all different walks of life that are focused on the same end goal, but they're all wearing spandex that nobody looks good in. Well, there are a couple of people, but for the most part, people don't look good in, and they're all on bicycles with 2 wheels. Your bike might be $8,000, mine might be $200, but it's a bicycle.
Yeah.
And it sort of levels the playing field. And I find that there are people that if you were out on the street, and you and I were at the National Task Force Gala this weekend, everyone's dressed up. It's harder to approach them because you're making a judgment based on their clothes or their style or who they're talking to. On the bike ride, you sit down for dinner, you don't know who you're sitting next to. You could be sitting next to the president of a pharmaceutical company.
That's an awesome concept. Let's go back to the task force for just 15 seconds. Who looked better, me or you?
The tally is still out. And they said it'll take at least another week and probably 2 recounts before they can make that final.
Well, we are in Florida, and the voting process.
And then we'll be on to a new story by then, so it'll be irrelevant.
Right, exactly. Glenn, it was me, by the way. Glenn, lots of people in the community think that HIV is an issue of the past, and they don't see it as something that is as vital in our community as it once was. Help explain why it is.
So, there's so many reasons. In certain groups it's less prevalent. Probably around the country, in the gay white male, it's less prevalent because there's more education. In our community, it's mostly happening in underprivileged, marginalized communities. The ages 13 to 23 are getting infected at the highest rate. If you take it from the LGBT standpoint, it's a lot of kids that have been thrown out of their homes from the Midwest that were never given any education in school about health and how to take care of yourself. They know nothing about HIV, and they end up on the streets trying to survive. By the time they get into an organization like not Compass, Pride Lines, or even Compass, but Pride Lines in Miami, chances are there's a good shot that they're already infected. I had this conversation with SunServe about transgenders, and it's the same kind of thing. So there's this whole group of people out there that are not educated well enough about their sexual health. So you've got it running rampant for that. You have you're fighting against stigma. You're fighting against the churches. When you go into the black community and you can get them free medication, often they won't take it. Our agency in Orlando, Miracle of Love, has to deal with this on a daily basis. They can get them the pills, but chances are that community won't take it because someone sees the pills, they're going to think you're either gay or you're already infected. Because again, it goes back to information and knowledge and that kind of thing, and education. So it's still, Florida still ranks #1, sometimes #2 in the nation for new cases.
South Florida, #1.
South Florida's #1. Yeah.
Last, but certainly not the least, we're coming into home stretch for November 19th and 20th. How can we help? What do we do now between now and the 19th?
Absolutely. Well, if you're an avid rider already and you can ride, there's still plenty of time. Each participant, meaning each rider, has to raise $1,250. Surprisingly, it's frightening to a lot of people, the idea, and it's overwhelming of $1,250, but there's so many simple things you can do that within a week you can raise that money. You can do a Facebook promotion. I did it a couple of weeks ago, and within less than a day and a half, I had raised $2,000. If you send a letter, you ask people, you never know who's been affected by the disease, so you ask everybody. I'm always surprised by some of the people that make donations, only to find out that they've never told anybody, but their son died of AIDS, or their niece or nephew died of AIDS, or they've got infected. And so, never discount that conservative group, because you never know where that president has been in his life and what that experience is like.
And if you're not riding,
then
how can we help?
Then we would love you to make a donation at www.thesmartride.org. There's a button for donate now, and you can make a generic donation to the ride, or if you have a friend in the community that's riding,
of which you do,
please give them even if you've donated to them before. They're throwing their heart and soul into this, and they're training and really getting ready for this event, and it means so much to them and our community and all the benefiting agencies. Throw them another $10, $20, whatever it might be that you can afford, because it all adds up. Over 10,000 people made donations 2 years ago. That means 10,000 people said the word AIDS. That means 10,000 people were moved enough to write that check or run that credit card. And, that's amazing.
Well, Glenn, of course, congratulations. This is a win-win-win for our community. Smart Ride, November 19th and 20th. You can contribute. You can ride still if you would like, but most important, you can contribute. Find a rider and make a pledge of support.
And you can volunteer.
And you can volunteer.
We have 250 volunteers that do everything from driving trucks to handing out water.
Yeah, and this is an event over 18 years, $12.5 million. The strength of the LGBTQ community in this event is we went through this little thing last year. I don't know if you heard, but we had a pandemic last year. Did you know that?
I thought it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, we had a pandemic last year, and you still raised $1 million.
No, we raised $700,000 without actually
okay.
doing the event.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we
All
did
right.
a Reimagine ride. Do what your metric of
that's right.
165 is.
Reimagine.
The number of miles from Miami to Key West is 165, and so we asked people to do their metric of 165.
And the goal here is the Smart Ride is at approximately 760 right now, and over the next 3.5 weeks, we're trying to get it to $1 million.
And I believe in this community, and honestly, we in a normal year, because we're still sort of in a COVID year, in a normal year between now and the ride, we would be raising $100,000 a week easily, and so I believe and know that they can raise $1 million.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you, Glenn Weinsheimer from Smart Ride. Make sure you walk into Bona Restaurant, have dinner, and meet Glenn. You'll probably have the same reaction of him that I have, but he runs a
and yet you still come back.
I do come back. He runs a great restaurant and really a great supporter. Congratulations on the Equality of Florida Award.
Thank you.
Well worthwhile. Support Smart Ride, November 19th and 20th. Various ways that you can do it. Very important to stand up for our LGBTQ community. Glenn, thanks.
Thank you, Al. I sincerely appreciate you giving us that platform.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire